Arsenal fan, even if you're not an Arsenal fan, everyone's got an opinion on what happened at the weekend. I'm hoping both of you do too. We're going to hear from Unai Emery in a moment what he thinks about what Xhaka did. The shirt wasn't flung to the floor. He took it off. He walks off the pitch. Have you ever done that? And was he right or wrong?
No, I haven't done that, and I've never been a captain of my team anyway, so that's the issue there. I don't like to hear fans boo players, but they've got every right to do so if they want to. But as a professional, and especially as a captain, you've got to take it. This can't be the first time that Granit Xhaka has had a bit of stick from the fans. The bottom line here is Arsenal are 2-2 at home. They're desperately trying to get a win. He walks off the pitch. That antagonises everybody. He walks off after having a poor game. So, poor game, walking off the pitch. And then he does that. I thought his behaviour was really poor. And where we were Tuesday now and he hasn't apologised, that apology should have gone on straight away after the game.
Yeah, it was a perfect storm for me of where Arsenal are. They've got a supporter base that are feeling disenfranchised in terms of you know, it's not a team that they feel represents them. The captain is not the captain that they want. Their response wasn't right. You can't, you know, you have to support your players. I thought it was a distressing moment for the team, but the captain on the pitch isn't good enough. He hadn't played well. He's been struggling all season, and his reaction was not befitting of a captain, not befit of wearing the armband. And then there hasn't been leadership from the manager either. And I think a lot of Arsenal's problems have come together in this incident.
Must be difficult for you because it's also a headline writer's dream, isn't it? Something to talk about for you. Hashtag the headline makers, your views on it too. Not fit to be the captain, perhaps. Where do Arsenal go next? Let's hear from their manager, Unai Emery.
He's wrong. He's wrong, but we are going to speak inside about that situation. And I want to listen him and also to be calm, but really he was wrong in this action.
Wrong in that action. You want spirit, though, from your players. Don't you want it to matter? You want them to show that heart, that courage?
That wasn't about spirit, that was about him.
Yeah.
He made that incident about him, and I thought Emery has handled that quite well. He's come out and said he was wrong, and I'll deal with that privately. Now, I'm sure those discussions between him and his captain, who he picked at the start of the season, which surprised a lot of people, those conversations are happening and will be happening, and I'll be surprised if he's still captain before their next game.
Yeah, although Emery himself has created this drama, I think. First of all, by this long-winded process of choosing the captain.
How long did it take? There's not many options there, is there?
Well, it was like an election, wasn't it? You know, it was like Brexit.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
And,
let's not go down that route.
well, and it's on, you know, that created a story to start with, this whole idea of electing a captain. Then the fact that the captain that's chosen, as I said, probably isn't quite good enough to justify his place every week, hasn't been good enough, and that's always a problem. You need your captain to be one of your best players. And then the issue that supporters, it's such a toxic atmosphere at Arsenal at the moment because of the disappointments they've had. And Xhaka symbolises Arsenal's decline. You think of the great Arsenal captains, and then you look at who's wearing the armband now, and it's no surprise he's become focus for a lot of discontent.
It's not just a great Arsenal player. It's not just a great Arsenal captains. It's just a great Arsenal midfielders. But to be fair to the Arsenal fans, over the last 20 to 25 years, you look at the standard of midfielders that they've had, not necessarily wearing a captain's armband, but playing and controlling games, helping them win trophies, European titles and Premier League titles. And then at the moment, they've got Lucas Torreira, who's okay. Yeah. They thought he was going to be the answer to their midfield bites. He's a decent player. You've got Guendouzi, who's probably done better than expected. And you've got Granit Xhaka now, who came after Euro 2016 with a decent reputation from Germany. But if you look at him from then till now, I don't see how he takes Arsenal forward. I don't see how he takes them to a point where they're going to be not just challenging for top four, but ultimately a team like Arsenal want to be challenging for titles, and I don't see how he does that at all.
How is it his fault?
It's his fault. I mean, the reaction's his fault. I agree that it's about him and it's not about showing spirit. I do have sympathy that I don't think any player should really be targeted by supporters in that way, but I've been a fan myself and I've probably done the same. So it's human nature. You're disappointed, you take it out on someone. He should be big enough to take it, is the bottom line.
He has to take it. He just has to take it and get off the pitch as quickly as you can.
Emery now and what he does, should he have given it in the first place? Clearly, don't you trust your players? Aren't you saying to your players, okay, who do you want? We saw Mourinho do it when he comes into Chelsea. I think he wanted Lampard and the players wanted John Terry. We all know how well that worked out, of course. So why is it wrong to give it to the players, to someone that they know in the club, they like, they respect, they want to play for?
And I think there's a disconnect between foreign managers and what captaincy means in England. And the Mourinho example is a good one because and Manchester United, he ended up giving the captaincy to Antonio Valencia. You know, nice fella, but a very shy bloke. His English wasn't so great, so he couldn't do post-match interviews. And certainly not a kind of leadership type galvanizer on the pitch. Now, that's a manager that had been in England for 15 years, but I still don't think he understood what captains are supposed to represent in England. For rightly or wrongly, maybe culturally it's wrong in England, but the fact is that fans look for captains to be that rallying figure, that kind of, you know, figure that's everyone's going to follow into battle.
But you've been given the armband for a reason, because you are that player who's supposed to be that inspiring figure. You are that player who is supposed to be a leader. Yeah. Hence, you have the captain's armband.
But there's a difference between being the most popular bloke in the dressing room and Xhaka, by all accounts, is a great trainer. He's good with the young players. He sets a nice example. But on the pitch, he doesn't transmit that. Yeah. And that's the issue when you let players decide. Pep's done it at Manchester City. The difference there is that he's got 20 excellent players, so whoever's going to be captain is going to be a very good footballer. Arsenal needed to make it one of their better players, I think.
You think now his position's untenable, right? There's no way back for him as captain. What about actually just playing for Arsenal?
No, I think that's fine. You can always come back from these things. What he did was wrong, but we've seen football, the history has been littered with players who have done a lot worse than that, tried to engineer themselves, moves out of a club, and it hasn't happened. Then they've had to go back and play for that same club they tried to leave on a Saturday or a Sunday. So I don't think his position at the club's untenable. I don't think he'll be captain again.
Really interesting couple of days. We are expecting to hear from Unai Emery in the next few hours. No doubt it will be about that. But what about the players themselves? Lucas Torreira was visibly upset by Xhaka's reception on Sunday. He spoke about the effect that it can have after the Swiss midfielder was booed off against Aston Villa earlier in the season.
It's normal in football for fans to boo. You can say if it's right or if it's wrong, but for me as a player, the most important thing would be for the fans to always be supporting the team in the good times and the bad. That said, people pay their money to go to the stadium, and if they don't like the performance, they might insult or boo you. But as players, we often have to adapt to these things. It's not good when you're on the pitch, because you work very hard to be there and you will always try to do your best. Mistakes are part and parcel of the game, but the most important thing is to give 100% for the shirt and to put in the maximum effort for the team. Personally speaking, since I joined Arsenal, Granit Xhaka has been one of those players who's treated me very well. I speak to him often, and we have a good relationship even though my English isn't that fluent yet. I think he's someone that gives a lot for this team, and I think he's a great player. So in terms of the fans, it's important they support us, because what we want to do is give 100% on the pitch for this club. Of course, there might be times when we make mistakes, but Granit Xhaka is a player, for example, who always gives 100%.
Interesting aspect from the players. Let's get some more on this, shall we? And we can head to South Africa, where journalist Joe Cran joins us from Johannesburg. Joe, hello. Thanks for being part of it. I was just having a quick look through there if I seem distracted by all the messages we're getting in using the hashtag The Headline Makers. People want to talk about this, no doubt where you are too. What have they been saying?
Yeah, look, I mean, South Africans are extremely passionate football fans, so it's absolutely no shock that that something like this has, I suppose, caught the imagination a little bit. Opposition fans obviously loving it, which is not ideal. But yeah, for the Arsenal fans, I think it is something that's split opinion, as you guys have all mentioned. Something that it's a difficult one to break down, really, because you know, from one side you look at it in a sense of it was wrong, he shouldn't have reacted in that way. But also, how much do the players have to put up with, and how far can they be pushed, and we say that it's okay?
We were just, again, having a look through about those that are Team Xhaka and Team not. Joe, is there a sense that it's now about Emery taking control of this situation, and the move actually that he makes next is key on his future?
Yeah, massively. I think exactly what you said. What he does now could potentially determine Xhaka's entire future at Arsenal, whether he keeps the armband, whether he even starts him in the next game, or whether he puts him on the bench, whether he leaves him out the squad completely. He's got to take the lead. He's got to, I suppose, kind of put his foot down. And it's not an easy thing to do when, firstly, you're in the fire as a coach, and secondly, the player that you've chosen as your captain has effectively become the guy that people resonate probably the least within the entire club at the minute. And I do think that he's got to make a big decision, and it could be, like I say, it could be something that defines Xhaka's career at Arsenal.
Joe, we were speaking earlier about Granit Xhaka and his time at Arsenal. It feels like what happened on Sunday, it's been a build-up of his time there. The bottom line is, do Arsenal fans think he's actually good enough to be in the team?
Well, I mean, that's ultimately it, really, is going back to what Jonathan said. You want a captain as someone who's going to be guaranteed a place almost, someone who's going to play 90 minutes and play week in, week out. And Xhaka is a player that a lot of people, especially the Arsenal fans, don't think should be in the starting 11 a lot of the time even. And I think that's where this has probably all come from, is that when they made a player who does split opinion like Granit Xhaka as their captain, it always kind of felt like it was playing with fire a little bit, even though, he's a player that is very well liked. The stories about guys going over to see him. So within the club and within the group of players, he's obviously someone that they felt could be captain. But ultimately, it's all down to the fans. It's all down to public opinion with regards to a lot of things. And I don't know if making him captain in the first place was ever the right thing to do.
Joe, what do you think the alternatives are? I mean, one of the Arsenal's problems is they have been struggling to find even, a team that's convincing and players that are good enough to play every week. But who are the candidates, do you think? I mean, maybe Aubameyang would be one, or what's your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, Aubameyang is obviously someone who, is almost guaranteed play time. He's not been at the club particularly long, but he's a big fan favourite. I think, Bellerin is another shout. Obviously, he took the armband. He's taken the armband in the past. And I think that he's a player that is very, very well liked. He's someone who has become, I suppose, synonymous with Arsenal, and he's become a player that people would happily accept as captain. The only problem with Bellerin is how long is he going to be fit? How long is he going to be available? And is he going to be able to be that player that comes in and plays every week? You look at players they've had in the past, your Vieiras, and I just don't think there's anyone in this Arsenal squad who is anywhere close to that level, not just in terms of ability, but in terms of leadership.
A real difference of opinion on the hashtag. For the past few weeks, says Carter, I've hashtagged this programme asking the question, is Unai Emery the right man for Arsenal? He's just saying whether he thinks that this is the right time for him to go, as well as, clearly, that's a bit too far, isn't it, with this situation?
It's weird because they've not had a horrendous start to the season, Arsenal. I mean, they've not been great. They've not played amazingly well for large parts of the season, but they've, up until recently, been getting results. And it just kind of feels a bit fractured with Emery. He's never, this season, it's never really felt like fans are happy with him, and it just keeps deteriorating with every passing game. And, to throw the lead away in this last game, and this thing with Xhaka as well, how he handles this could be very, very telling of what happens to him. I think he did the right thing in coming out and saying that Xhaka was wrong. That I think it was important for him to get that out straight away, because it at least shows his opinion on the matter, and it shows that he backs the fans. But yeah, I think for me with Emery, I don't know if we're going to hit a point when there's just no coming back for him.
Joe, thanks for coming on, if only to show me that porcelain rabbit in the background, which I quite fancy. I still won't have that. He's gone. Off he goes. Joe, I said fans were split on it. Some saying that he's right, that players have a breaking point. If you push them, they'll push back. Thank you for that one. This is interesting. Fans booing their own players is very irritating, says Jokes. We had it with some Manchester United fans last season when they were booing Paul Pogba. It's disgusting. They're much more of a captain figure at Arsenal anyway. I'd still have him as skipper for the way that he reacted. So they're talking about actually showing that spirit you said wasn't spirit, but showing that. Hector Bellerin is one of those players that's come out in support this week, the past couple of days, for Xhaka too. It is about courage. It's about, if you're being backed by the players, that's enough, right? If they want to stand by you, if they want to support you.
They're a team, and fair play to Hector Bellerin for coming out and supporting him. Ironically, we're talking about him being a potential captain. One of the players over the last couple of years has been linked with a move away from Arsenal as well. So those players know him a lot better than us, and if they hold him in high regard, then that's fine. All we can do is judge his performances on the pitch, and for me, they've been nowhere near good enough.
And this is a mess that Emery's now in, because if he is going to take the captaincy away, he's clearly got to do it in a very sensitive manner, because this is a player that's very, very popular in the dressing room, and he's already said to players, you choose as captain. So if you're going to take it away, then he's saying, actually, I'm going to choose it. So that's a change. It's a mess.
Give it to?
Well, I think you give it to Aubameyang. He's your best player.
Yeah.
He plays every week.
Yeah.
They're also trying to get him to sign a new contract, so it might be a little bit of a tactic in there. I think for me, it's him or Lacazette. Bellerin, great young lad, but he's injured a lot, and he probably needs to mature into that role anyway.
My completely unscientific look through some of the tweets and read them out poorly suggests the same. Aubameyang, possibly Lacazette. Could be a brilliant distraction technique, of course, because of the result. 2-2 with Crystal Palace. Many making the point, Delvin says, 2-0 up and a draw at home. Arsenal doing Arsenal things. Nothing new here.
And it was like the end of the Wenger era as well, and that's another problem. Have things changed enough under Emery? I do have sympathy for them, because really it should have been 3-2. I think that we might talk about the VAR goal.
Go on then.
Well, when you unravel it, that's one of the strangest disallowed goals I've seen, really, because Martin Atkinson's brilliantly positioned. He's got a good look at what's happening in the box. It's all marginal. People are pushing and pulling. He decides it's okay, and then the VAR is scientifically, forensically trying to look at bits of contact and choose one bit of contact is more important than another. How he's better placed than the referee on the pitch to do that, I don't know. So I've got a lot of sympathy for Arsenal there. That was a goal all day long before VAR, and it's one of the strangest decisions I think we'll see all season.
I couldn't agree more. And this is one of the problems with it as well, is Socrates runs off. He scored his second goal. I'm a hero. It's a great result. Arsenal are back, kind of moving up to where they belong and where they feel they belong in the table. And it's taken away from them by a real nothing decision, as far as I'm concerned. You're looking at that, picking the bones out of it. As you said, Martin Atkinson is in an absolutely pin-perfect place to judge what's going on, and he got the right decision for me.
I think Gary Cahill pushes over one of the Arsenal players.
Yeah.
Was it Louise or something in the build-up? So there's a judgment being made that push doesn't count, but this other push counts. I can't understand that.
However, Arsenal should have been home and away before that, shouldn't they? They shouldn't have allowed it back to 2-2. All credit to Crystal Palace, of course. So it doesn't hang just on that one decision.
But then we go back to our good friend Granit Xhaka. When you look at the cross for that equalising goal, he's doing this thing there where players nowadays are obsessed with not conceding a handball. He's not close to the Palace player. He's not thinking about stopping that cross. And if he stops that cross, David Luiz doesn't get himself into a tangle, and Jordan Ayew doesn't score the goal.
Palace could have also had a winner just after the 2-2 as well, couldn't they?
Yeah, they could. I mean, they're so dangerous on the counter-attack. Fair play to them for keeping it going. They played well in the game, but I think Arsenal controlled it. They had enough chances. And to talk about Xhaka on the pitch as well, one of the big issues, I think, is that period when it was starting to go wrong for Arsenal, when it became precarious, that's when you need a captain, or that's when you need your key midfielder, and he didn't even want the ball. You need him to slow the game down at that point and to try and control it. And he just seemed to want to trot around in a little pocket of space, but not even receive possession.
He never wants to do that, though. That's the problem with Granit Xhaka. And he never wants to be somebody, that player who is going to be the hub of your midfield. That heartbeat, again, as we talk about people being a captain and running the game, he just doesn't have the ability, or doesn't have sort of mentality to do that.
Guendouzi's got more of it at the age of 20, strangely. He's the one that wanted the ball. He's the one that was getting involved.
Taking responsibility,
I love the calls for him to be captain, but you just don't want to rein in any of that Guendouzi magic, do you?
I mean, he's a good rugby captain, given the fouls.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it'd be too much for him.
David Luiz's younger brother.
It's just embracing the Rugby World Cup that's happening at the moment, right? Yeah, of course. cup action this week for them too. That's why we're going to hear from Unai Emery in the next couple of hours. What's a measure of success now for them? What do you want to see from this Arsenal side over this next week, including, I guess, the decision over Xhaka?
No, the trouble with the cups is we've seen them do well in it before. So I could say, well, we want to see a response in the cup and build on something, but I do think for Arsenal it's about the league now. I do think there's a great chance to be in the top four this year. So I think it's got to be league performance. What happens in midweek is a little bit irrelevant for me.
But the problem you've got is we talk about having a response to what happened on Sunday, is the team he puts out. It'll be an experienced side. It'll be a side full of young players. And that team that did so badly in terms of the result against Palace won't be able to respond. It's all about their game on the weekend.
Yeah. I think what he does have, I mean, a big positive is Kieran Tierney now being fit.
Yeah.
I think he's got to now nail down his best players. Torreira, I think, probably should be in ahead of Xhaka. I agree, he's been a bit hit and miss, but I think he's better.
Well, you're dropping your captain, then that's a problem. Yeah. Maybe he takes the captain's armband off him because he doesn't have the issue of dropping his captain anymore.
Whoa. It's like playing a computer game. I don't know where we started, where we finished. But somewhere in between, we're supposed to talk for about a minute and a half about Xhaka, and 4 hours later, that's the end of the show. It's not, but thank you to everyone that's been in touch using the hashtag, the headline makers. We'll end it with this on the Guendouzi for captain, just because I want it. Thank you, Storm, that's got in touch. Perfect captain, he says, to take Arsenal forward. He's shown countless times he's the leader on the pitch. He's two. Which is a beautiful thing, because Liverpool 2, Tottenham 1, and it had a bit of everything that we wanted, didn't it?
Terrific game, really good. I mean, we were discussing whether Tottenham had actually played well or not. I thought they did. I just thought Liverpool were fantastic in the match. The fact Tottenham scored early kind of made the game, because it made Liverpool have to chase it, and chase it they did with that attacking talent they've got. They sort of got the counter-attack working brilliantly, the counter-press, and the interplay between the forwards was fantastic. It was just a really, really good game with also that incredible Gazzaniga performance laced into it.
It's interesting watching Liverpool play, because they're not the league champions, they haven't won the league, but it feels like when they play, they are league champions, strangely enough. There's an authority about them. And even when they went a goal down, there wasn't any sort of sense of panic anywhere. They were fully in control of what they were doing, and in terms of their play. Yes, Spurs had that opportunity with Son to make it 2 in the second half, but you never felt like Liverpool weren't in control. And when it became 1-1, they're such a different team to City as well. They physically impose themselves on the opposition, and they just can't breathe. It's such an interesting thing to watch and compare them to how City take charge of games as well.
And that thing, you talk about the lack of panic, and I think the graphic showed that 45 games at home without defeat. They've got the crowd believing to the extent now that there's zero panic at Anfield. It's like the old Manchester United scenario where under Ferguson they always thought there was going to be a late goal, and the crowd at Anfield are the same. They've got total faith in those players, and that helps the guys on the pitch.
You're kind of beaten before you go out on the pitch, which you wouldn't normally say about a Spurs team, but given the run of form that they've had of late, maybe there is a little touch of that too. Good opinions, both. Well done. Let's get one from someone that also matters. Is Jurgen Klopp.
What I enjoyed today really was the way we played. So even if we would have, it's easy to say now, if we would have drawn or maybe even we would have lost, if we play 95 minutes like this, I'm really fine. Because usually the result is the result of the performance. That sometimes can happen and it's not the case, but today we played so good. I really liked it. To be honest, I really liked it. And against a really tough opponent in a difficult situation, not to forget, gives them another motivational boost, whatever. And so I'm completely fine. So who cares at the end? But no, with the performance, I'm happy, and so I don't care about the result.
Love to hear from Liverpool fans on that result. Use the hashtag, the headline makers. Let's head back to South Africa then. OJ Malife joins us. Hi, OJ.
Hi, Caroline.
Lovely to have you with us. I know the many times that I've been to Johannesburg, how loved Liverpool are there. So just how rocking was it after that performance at the weekend, OG?
I mean, the many throngs of Liverpool fans that I know in Johannesburg alone, Martin for the last couple of months, and the run that they're on at the moment, just being, unbeaten and since the start of the season, just gives them that belief, as you say. You see it in the way they play. It's also the way that the fans also believe in the team, that, even if they go down early, they still believe that their team can definitely come back and win a game, and I guess they showed it against Spurs as well.
The difference as well from last season, that we were seeing some of these results would be draws, wouldn't they? And then now just that sense of belief that actually when you go to watch a Liverpool game as a Liverpool fan, you think they are going to go and win. What areas do you think they need to possibly improve on if they are going to go on and take that title?
I mean, it's such small margins, but it's the little things that they do. I mean, you see, for instance, Sadio Mane losing a ball up front. Maybe another player would drop back into the midfield and try and recover, but he fights to get the ball still in the Spurs box, which results in the penalty that Mo Salah then scores and gives them those 3 points. They've got such amazing full who going forward are probably, the most lethal on the European continent at the moment. Yes, maybe those two still need to work on their defensive abilities, but if you concede goals, if you still believe that you can go on and score more than your opponent, I guess it makes it easier for you guys to go score goals. So for Jurgen Klopp, I think that belief, and more than even beyond Christmas, going into 2020, that they can stay there as well.
OG, we're getting that sense of belief. We're also getting a sense of a big old wind sweeping in across you. It's just interrupting the line a little bit. It's mainly because we're jealous of the sunshine that we're going to cut you off. But thank you for coming on. OG talking about that belief. Funny that it's with the fans. It's with all the journalists that are walking into it. You kind of do expect, even up against Tottenham, that they're going to get a win.
That's just an idea of, we said, how good they are at the moment. There wasn't any sort of panic. They were in total control. Everyone knows their jobs. And even when I mentioned earlier, the fact that we're talking about them as if they are champions and they play and carry themselves as champions, they've still got a huge hurdle of Manchester City to get over as well. And that's the real fascinating thing that we're going to see this season. Just how well they deal with City. They've got a big gap at the moment. I don't think anyone at City's panicking, but they do look the team to beat Liverpool at the moment.
They do. I mean, the mental aspect, you always look for that when you're looking at who's going to win a title race. I don't think you can choose between those two teams mentality-wise. Last season we saw it that they just went hammer and tongs right down the line. Neither side let up. It came down to margins. It didn't come down to mentality. I think it'll be the same again. I think winning the Champions League has just pushed Liverpool into a different level in terms of their sense of themselves. But mentally, if City are looking at Liverpool to falter, to throw it away, I don't think that's going to happen. I think City are going to have to beat them head-to-head like they did last season to kind of do it on the pitch.
The teams that you followed over the years, the seasons that you've seen title winners, do you have a sense which of these is, we've got Keane saying that he shouldn't really say this, but he thinks that this is a team of champions. Do you see that?
I've covered Liverpool a lot, probably 20 years. This is definitely the best Liverpool team in terms of the football, but it's probably the best mentally as well. It's hard to see, you can maybe look at the midfield and say you could improve that in terms of technical ability, but as a team that works, as a unit that works, is able to win in different ways. It's the most complete Liverpool side, and that's what makes them different to the teams I've seen that have come close but not gone the final step.
I agree with you. The only thing that I would point in City's favour is their goal-scoring ability from midfield. I think the problem Liverpool have...
They've got Jordan Henderson.
Yes. He scored a great goal against Spurs on Sunday, you're absolutely right. But if that front three isn't working, and we can't expect them to be working, fully functioning, flowing and scoring every week. Wijnaldum can chip in with a goal. The Ox possibly, but I just don't... I think they need a little bit more from midfield if it isn't working up front. When you look at David Silva, you've got Bernardo Silva, you've got so many other options from deeper positions who can get them out of the brown stuff if there's an issue.
It's a different way of playing, I guess. I suppose the difference is that City look to the midfield to provide the creativity. Liverpool look more or less to the fullbacks and the front three to sort of play off the cuff. So at the moment, Klopp's going for this sort of almost a three-man, like the old midfield two, where there were runners. It's almost three runners in there that are just physically overpowering opposition. You're right, and there might be a point where he has to change the mix and put in a Naby Keita who's got a little bit different, or or an Oxlade-Chamberlain or even Adam Lallana. So that's for him, but those are pretty good options. You know,
Well, and options he's got now after the injuries that they've had.
You know, he's kept them in reserve so far.
Yeah.
And as I say, I think if they need to play in a slightly different way, they do have those players to do that. I think they're a pretty strong squad.
How many City players would you take, put in that Liverpool side?
David Silva, Raheem Sterling.
De Bruyne, you've got...
De Bruyne. Trying to think who else.
There are 3.
There's 3.
But years gone by, you would have taken a lot more than that.
The issue, I think that university backs up my point. Those are all creative players as well. So, again, those are the sort of players who, for me, if Liverpool are going to dominate English football, those are the sort of players I think that they need in there.
Yeah, it's how you play. I don't think you put David Silva in to play the Klopp game, not the way he wants to play in midfield. Maybe De Bruyne could do it, but it's just a different way of skinning it.
I'm just kind of thinking where, in terms of unlocking that door, if there's an issue with that front 3 not quite working as Liverpool expect them to work, that was what I was saying.
You just said you'd happily become a Liverpool fan so you can go out in that pub. Thank you, Josh, and all the fans as well. Wherever you are in the world, football fans are no different. This year's going to be our year. On 190, it all changes. We're going to win it, everything.
That little clip, you know, that could get replayed, couldn't it? That fella saying it's definitely our year this year. That's been the story for Liverpool the last 30 years, but I actually agree with him, it's different.
I love the guy right at the front who clearly was a Tottenham fan. Didn't want anyone to know. I can't say it was the slow hand clap, wasn't it, when they scored?
I just thought he wanted to finish his food.
No, probably.
Looking down at his food.
Yeah, me and him both. That was exactly what it was. For Tottenham, what does that result do? Is it kind of that one we sort of expected?
It is, but, you know, at some point they need that result that's going to reboot the season, and, you know, it certainly didn't happen for them at the weekend, despite playing quite well. I feel for them. It's one of those periods that's just not going right. There's issues. They need to get something. It's quite obvious that people like Dele Alli need to be playing a little bit better. But you could see, you know, Kane's banging form now. Son had a great game, I thought. A few issues, but maybe the performances are a little bit better than results at the moment.
Such the fine margins. You mentioned some. Those couple of off the bar as well, where that could have changed. Gazzaniga, the performance that he puts in, you think, well, that's enough to win a game on its own.
I agree, and I think, as Jonathan said, I thought they played reasonably well, and any other team, well, take out City out of the equation, any other team in the league going away, putting in that performance, you're getting 3 points. So I don't think Spurs are that far off. There's been a lot of talk about Pochettino and his position there, but I think you're being kind to Dele Alli. I think he needs to produce a hell of a lot more. You get to the point with him sometimes where they're playing with 10 men. If he's not getting on the end of something and scoring, the position he wants to play for me is a second striker. And if he's not playing a second striker, the deeper into the pitch he goes, I think the less he contributes. I think he's got to really have a good look and decide what sort of midfield player he is moving forward and how he wants to take his game to the next level.
You don't think he knows what he is or what he wants to do or how he fits in that role?
If I look at him and I watch him, I think you want to be a second striker. But the problem he's got is that the Spurs team aren't set up for him to be a second striker. And he's just got to decide, am I going to be a midfield player who is going to help Nick play together and get forward and score goals, or am I going to say to my manager, you're going to get the best out of me as a second striker? Then he's got to give his manager a decision to make then, if he puts him in that position, and if he doesn't, he's got a problem.
What he's got, I think he's a brilliant moments player, if you know what I mean. He can do nothing and then a touch of creativity. So we saw that against Ajax in the Champions League semi-final. Sublime touch in the 93rd minute, having not done a lot in that game. So that's a problem for a manager. Do you have someone on the pitch that's going to contribute very little, but then has...
At the weekend, the win for them there. Martial coming back, what difference has he made for this United team?
Well, we've been talking about Arsenal, maybe they're not enough good players, and sometimes it's that simple. I think you can talk about Manchester United in a variety of different ways, but the biggest issue they've got is there are not enough top-class players now. Martial is one of their top-class players, and lo and behold, when you get better players on the pitch, you get better results. I think his impact was not just limited to what he did, but bringing the best out of Marcus Rashford, fantastic interplay between them. Building on a decent game against Liverpool, decent result, they just suddenly look a little bit different. And you think back to that period when Solskjaer took over, it was Martial, Rashford, Lingard, Pogba. You know, if you can get one of the other two back firing, they're a different team again.
It was almost as if United were playing with 9 or 10 men for the last month or so, because Rashford been up front by himself, doesn't want the ball, doesn't want to be the main man up front, doesn't want to be that number 9, although I've been told he wanted to play in that role, but I just don't think he's good enough to play in that role. He's much better coming from the side. So if he's got someone up there to play off, to take the pressure off him, and them two working in tandem, all of a sudden United they look a different prospect. And defensively they've been fine, midfield they've been okay, but they just haven't been able to turn those 0-0s into 1-0s or 2-0s to kill teams off.
And the other thing with Martial, that goal, that third goal that United scored, which might have been the best goal of the weekend for me, I mean, his finish is utterly sublime, just a little touch over the goalkeeper. In terms of finishing ability, I think he's as good as it is in the Premier League, even including Kane and Aguero. One-on-one finishing ability, he's sensational. And Solskjaer's been talking for a long time, as a former striker, about needing that killer edge in the box. Warren says it's not going to come from Rashford, but if Martial can stay fit, he can be that player.
So all those doomsayers, the doubters around Solskjaer and Manchester United, has it all changed on one player? Or is it, you know, those issues, do you still see them?
They're still there. They're still there. I still think there's an issue in midfield. I think the quicker they get Pogba back, the better, because he's a World Cup winner, and I still think he's one of the best midfield players in the world. If they can get him going, and if Solskjaer can find a place for him in that side as well, all of a sudden Andre Pereira looks a different player. I think he's had a decent few weeks. I thought he's been really poor till the last month or so, but McTominay has firmly established himself in the heart of that midfield. He's a really good player. And defensively, there hasn't been an issue. I think before last weekend against Liverpool, they had the 4th best defence in the league. So it was just a case of them being able to actually move forward and actually score goals and kill teams off, and they've just not been able to do that. Hence what we saw at Old Trafford against Liverpool with Adam Lallana scoring that late goal.
Yeah, and James, your colleague at the Telegraph, saying exactly the same thing. It's about that conviction they've not seen. But we've seen it against Chelsea, so we knew they had it within them. I wonder, and I'm more than open to the comments that might come social media via my way for saying this, but actually bringing Pogba back, how does that change that dynamic?
Well,
and, I mean, you never say, oh, I don't want Paul Pogba, would you? But interesting that they've got something that seems a little bit balanced and settled.
It does, but I mean, the guy's talent is such that if you unlock it, then it makes Manchester United a different proposition. So from a manager's point of view, I know what you're saying. You could say, right, Pereira's doing well, we'll keep him in the team. But realistically, you've got a talent like Pogba. So Solskjaer, from the start, backed himself to get the best from Pogba, having worked with them. And he did do that initially. He surely, if he's got anything to offer United as a manager, he has to be the person that gets the best from the Pogbas, you know, the players that United have developed, as it were. He'll put him back in. But if it's motivation for Pogba, he needs to get him in the right place, because there's a question about his future. He hasn't been happy up to this point. So that's the issue for Solskjaer to work on.
You now also work with players. Isn't this the sort of situation that a player should relish? If you're Paul Pogba, someone's sticking an arm around you and saying, you can be the leader we need on the pitch, take these younger players through to make that mark. But I imagine that's probably been said to him already.
Yeah, you can say that to a player 1,000 times, but if his mind's elsewhere, if he wants to go to Real Madrid or if he wants to go back to Juventus, then...
You think it's elsewhere?
I think that's the only issue. The only issue for Pogba is if he wants to stay there. He can come back, he can come back fit, he can come back refreshed and want to enjoy his football. But Solskjaer could say to him, you could have the keys to Manchester, as far as he's concerned. It doesn't matter. It's whether the player wants to be part of a Manchester United team that's going to rebuild and get themselves back up to where they feel they belong, which is challenging, winning titles and doing well in the Champions League. That is the only issue. Does he want to be there and be part of that rebuilding of Manchester United?
So do you think that if he doesn't want to be there, they can maybe do a deal with them? I mean, from a player's point of view, remember what they did with Ronaldo, where they said, stay another year. You go, I wonder.
That happens all the time, doesn't it? We see so many players who say they want to leave a club, and a man who say, give me another 6 months, give me another year, let me get us back into the top 4, let us win something this year, then you could go. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case with Pogba, but on the other side, I wouldn't be surprised if he signed a new deal. It's just a case of where he wants to be this time, next summer.
Can I ask you something purely selfishly from a fantasy Premier League point of view? Teemu Pukki, is he going to come back from Norwich? Is this team going to stay up? Is he going to get me more hat-tricks? Do I leave him out of my team?
I've been thinking the very same thing because I've probably got
you've got him too?
Yeah, I do,
Right.
yeah. And I've kept faith with him, and he's one of those players that as soon as you sell, he'll start scoring again. The trouble for Norwich is what's happened at the other end of the pitch is starting to affect them going forward. You know, they've lost confidence as a team because they haven't been able to defend. He hasn't changed as a player, but the team's just they're not playing with that kind of boldness that they played against City with.
He had one opportunity against Manchester United.
And
he skied that, which is fine. You accept that as a centre forward, but he is a player who relies on service. You look at the goal he scored at Anfield. It's a lovely ball slipped through to him. Look at the goals he scored at Carrow Road. He is a player. He's not going to go past 3-4 players and put one in the top corner. He is someone who gets on the end of things and finishes.
Dan Farker's not been lucky with injuries, though, has he? And I think when you've got a relatively small squad and that reliance on everyone playing together, sticking together, he needs everyone he can back.
Yeah, and it's been a bizarre run of injuries for him.
Yeah.
And players getting injured on under-21 duty and so on. What he has got is stability above him. Stuart Webber, the sporting director, really buys into him. The ownership buys into him. So at least he's not under pressure, Farke, but it's been an awful run for him since that City game.
You were absolutely no good in helping me with my fantasy program. Caroline Barker alongside Jonathan Norcroft and Warren Horton. And welcome to the Premier League, Christian Pulisic. After a tough start to life at Stamford Bridge, the American got off the goal-scoring mark in some style. Let's hear from him, as well as his manager, Frank Lampard.
Well, Christian, you're taking the match ball home. Did you nearly forget to get it off the referee?
I did, yeah. It's actually my first professional hat-trick, so I didn't realise that was the tradition, I guess. I just forgot. Luckily, my teammates helped me out there, so I was able to get it in the end.
3 goals and the 90 minutes that you've been craving. Were you absolutely itching to get involved quicker than you have done this season?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I want to be on the field and help the team to make an impact. You know, I think, and you know, I didn't think it was going to come super easy, but you know, the last few weeks I've been coming in and I've helped the team to make an impact, and obviously I was happy to start today, and yeah, have a special day for me.
He had a week break this summer, 1 week from his international team. So he comes here for a big price tag. He has 1 week of holiday. He wants to come back fair played. I love that. But at the same time, why am I going to throw him in? Play games early in the season. I've got competition in that area. But I know what he's going to be for this club. But I have to try and do it in the right way to get the best out of him. I'm not trying to claim it because he's got a hat-trick. I just feel he's going to be a really good player for us. And delighted for him. Delighted for him.
Burnley 2, Chelsea 4. A perfect hat-trick. The Christian, what was he called? Captain America. The rest of the team has started calling him. Did he need that time to settle? Has this been a masterstroke from Frank Lampard in the way he's handled him into the game?
It's been brilliant. I think it's been a demonstration of Frank Lampard as the ex-player, the recent ex-player, understanding what players need. And when he talks about Christian Pulisic only getting a week's break and playing for the US, I don't know if we in England understand how important Pulisic is for American soccer or football. He is their symbol. He's so much expectations of him, and it's a struggling USA team at the moment. So when he goes on international duty, he's carrying a massive burden. So mentally that's tiring as much as physically. Frank's brought him in, given him a bit of a taste, taken him out, and now back at the right time. And what a fantastic platform now for him to go on the rest of the season.
It's interesting because maybe you talk about that pressure of him being the symbol of American football, soccer. Maybe in his mind, he's taken that sort of pressure into going to Chelsea because actually he had a week off. But at the end of the day, he's probably not had this situation before where he's had a big move and played football in the summer. He has to know that he has to have some sort of break. And what Frank Lampard's done is, as you said, he's very clever, classic thing of a former player, just getting into management, physically knowing how hard it is to adapt to the Premier League.
Yeah. But also, the fact he's still a kid. You know, he didn't even know he got to take the match ball home. From
It's lovely, that.
Well, and you see his image with it, and all the players have signed it to... You can see he's... Oh, I'm about to use a cliche, living the dream. But he's enjoying it, and it's so important. That's what you see in the rest of the Chelsea squad. He's kind of that emblem for how Frank Lampard has got the rest of Chelsea playing.
Yeah, that's what he's very young, as you say, Caroline, and that's what you want. It's that they've got older players like Willian and Pedro who can, you know, fill in, do the job. But the future is Pulisic, it's Hudson-Odoi, it's Mount, it's Abraham, and there's a sense of a young group of players who are enjoying themselves immensely under Frank Lampard. And for him to now feel part of that, you know, not just I'm in the squad, but I'm contributing, he can now enjoy himself all the more. And it was lovely just to see his wide-eyed joy at scoring at Burnley.
We sometimes, as journalists, we expect a lot from these players. You're a former pro. You've done both sides of it now. He comes across as quite shy, and he's doing the old "let the football do the talking" on the pitch. Is Chelsea the sort of the right club for him now? When you think about his development, where he's going to go, do you see him being there for many years to come?
Well, it was when the deal was announced that he was going to be joining Chelsea. There was that natural assumption that he was going to be replacing Hazard. And then you kind of thought, well, hang on a minute, where will he fit into this side if Chelsea go on and spend again? But again, he's been another one of these players inadvertently who has actually benefited from that transfer ban. And he will be given, as Frank Lampard said, all the time and all the latitude to adjust to the Premier League, to adjust to life at Chelsea. And I think he's going to be a really good player for them.
Have Chelsea become, and I feel quite a little bit sick saying this as a Tottenham fan, you know, they're a team that I love to watch. And I think actually lots of fans of other clubs are tuning in thinking, oh, I want to see Chelsea play.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of a Leicester vibe in the sense that it's young players. I think we all love watching a team develop, young players playing together. The likeability of Frank Lampard is a big part of that as well. And you think that maybe not all Chelsea managers have been likeable in the past, quote unquote. So he's a big part of that. And there's something almost kind of likeable about the transfer ban, that it's brought the club back down to earth, that it's at last using its youth players. And you can no longer look at it and say, you know, what are the priorities here?
There was an expectation at the start of the season, but there wasn't expectation at the start of the season because of what had happened. But as they keep playing well and as they keep picking up the results, all of a sudden that expectation might just start to crank up as we get to Christmas, as we move into the new year, if they keep playing well and maintain the position they're in. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword.
But we've spoken a lot of the show talking about Arsenal and their expectation of the season. Apart from Liverpool, Man City, maybe Leicester, do you see anyone finishing above Chelsea?
Not at all. I mean, they shouldn't, talent-wise. We've just been talking about some of the players they've got. Well-balanced squad, young and old, great options everywhere. Players there that have won, so you've got them to help the young players. I guess going back to Frank, that's the unknown quantity for him, isn't it? And if you think about Derby, he took them so far but didn't make the final step. So that's the next thing he needs to develop, is winning in the clutch, as it was, when it really matters. But ability-wise, yeah.
I just hope that Tammy Abraham continues his rich vein of form. I spoke to a couple of people who know him reasonably well, and they were wondering if it was a case of if he came back, would he go back on loan at Aston Villa, at a team where they're going to not create that many chances, and that would be a similar situation to what he found himself in at Swansea. But going back to Chelsea, Frank Lampard being clever, giving him the number 9 shirt psychologically was a huge vote of confidence. And after a couple of games where it didn't quite happen for him, found the back of the net, he looks like a real natural finisher. And one of those players, if you give him chances, he'll score. Doesn't matter what sort of team he's in. If you give him chances, he'll get those goals. And I think he'll make a good difference for them.
Use the hashtag the headline makers. Chelsea fans, what do you expect from your team this season? Frank Lampard has held his press conference in the last half hour ahead of their EFL Cup match against Manchester United on Wednesday. And he was asked what competitions he will make his target this season.
I will target them all. I know what you're saying. It's one that comes at the earliest in the year. You find yourself very quickly, potentially, in the quarterfinals if we win. So, yeah, we'll target them all and certainly give it a professional approach where we want to win every game and know that we're up against a top opponent tomorrow. So, yeah, we'll give it the same focus as we gave Ajax last week, and we'll give Ajax next week. You know, every game must be, as a Chelsea player, something that you give absolutely everything to try and win. When you play against a top team, like Manchester United with top players, they can hurt you in moments, and they did it to us 4 times in a game that we performed pretty well in. So I don't think the context of that is going to be hugely relevant tomorrow night.
We're going to talk about Manchester United in just a bit. The moment from the weekend for me from Frank Lampard was Burnley score a couple, right? He said, oh, we could focus on that, the fact that we give 2 away, but I enjoyed the way that my team played. So it's almost like that's irrelevant. And you kind of get that. I'd want to play for him.
Yeah, I think he's a good, positive young manager. I'd be amazed if he didn't mention those 2 goals in the changing room, by the way. Before he came out and spoke to the media, he will be getting his defence or his defensive coaches to get over to the players, show them the clips of those goals and say where perhaps things didn't go wrong. I think the first one was a brilliant strike.
Yeah.
Second one deflected. Okay, we can pick the bones out of that, but he would have been telling them in the change room. And he comes out and speaks to us.